The Oklahoma fire is the largest wildfire in the United States this year. It consumed an area nearly twice the size of Chicago in 24 hours. It is burning across 2 states with no end in sight. In Woodward, Oklahoma, a city of 12,000 people, the fire breached residential neighborhoods before the full-time fire department could assemble. 11,000 people across 4 towns fled in a single evening. A 7-vehicle pileup on Highway 54 near Tyrone, blinded by smoke, sparked an entirely separate wildfire. 4 firefighters were hospitalized in Beaver County after their truck plunged into a burning canyon they could not see. And 700 miles northeast, people in Chicago woke up Wednesday to find their cars blanketed in ash from a fire they had never heard of. But here is the detail that tells the real story. In Woodward, an Oklahoma mesonet weather station stood in the path of the fire. It was a scientific instrument built to measure temperature, humidity, and wind speed. On Tuesday afternoon, the fire burned so hot and so fast that it melted the station's instruments. The machine designed to record the weather was destroyed by the weather it was recording. And the conditions that destroyed it are forecast to return. Tuesday, February 17th, at 11:40 a.m. Central Time, a fire ignited southeast of Beaver, Oklahoma. The cause remains under investigation. Within 2 hours, it had consumed 15,000 acres and jumped the Kansas border. The Oklahoma Highway Patrol sealed Highway 64 east of Forgan. By 4 that afternoon, a second crisis erupted, 140 miles southeast. A wildfire tore out of a wooded area 1.5 miles from Woodward and raced toward the city. Matt Lehenbauer, Woodward's Director of Emergency Management, described the speed in an interview. He said, "It broke out about 1.5 miles outside of town, and the wind was blowing from that direction into town. It spread rapidly. It was in town before we even got all the Woodward firefighters there, and we have a full-time fire department here." Police and highway patrol troopers went door to door. 4,000 residents evacuated, and some refused to leave. By late evening, crews from as far as Garfield County were conducting structure protection, defending homes one by one as flames pressed against doorsteps. And then the number started doubling. 145,000 acres by midnight Tuesday, 283,000 acres by Wednesday evening. Governor Kevin Stitt declared a state of emergency for 3 counties. FEMA approved 3 fire management assistance grants. Across Oklahoma, 33 separate fires and hotspots flared in 23 counties in a single day. And this is where it gets worse. The Ranger Road fire did not stop at the state line. It burned northeast through Beaver County and crossed into Clark County, Comanche County, and Meade County in Kansas, and forced evacuations in Ashland and Englewood. Patients at Ashland Hospital were transferred north to Mineola. Evacuees sheltered overnight at the South Central School's gymnasium in Coldwater. Simultaneously, the Lavender Fire scorched over 18,000 acres near Amarillo, and the 8-Ball Fire burned 13,000 acres across the Texas Panhandle. 3 states, over 330,000 acres. A fire zone stretching from the base of the Oklahoma Panhandle through southwestern Kansas to the outskirts of Amarillo. And it does not stop there. The smoke kept going, it climbed into the upper atmosphere, rode north on southwest winds, and embedded itself in rainfall over Illinois. Chicagoans woke Wednesday morning to a phenomenon meteorologists called dirty rain. Long lines formed at car washes before sunrise. A fire in the Oklahoma Panhandle had left its residue on windshields 700 miles away. Here's the problem that is not making headlines. February is supposed to be winter across the Great Plains. Dormant grasslands, freezing temperatures, snow. Instead, the first 18 days of February 2026 registered as the warmest on record in Oklahoma. Temperatures ran 15 degrees Fahrenheit above average, day after day. Nearly 74% of the state is locked in moderate to extreme drought. The Oklahoma Forestry Services measured fine dead fuel moisture at 3 to 4%. For context, kiln-dried lumber sits at about 8%. The grass across the Panhandle was drier than firewood. But that was only half the collision. The drought primed every field into a fuse. Then a strengthening low-pressure system over Colorado delivered the ignition, driving sustained winds of 20 to 30 miles per hour, with gusts above 60 miles per hour. And then came the accelerant no one talks about. Eastern red cedar. Woodward's emergency manager, Matt Leonbauer, identified these invasive trees as the fuel that turned a grass fire into something far worse. Red cedars burn higher and hotter than grass, and they produce airborne embers that leap ahead of the fire line, igniting new blazes hundreds of yards downwind. Neighborhoods on the southwest side of Woodward sit surrounded by dense red cedar stands, and the fire ripped through them. Here is the trap that closes around all of it. The drought kills the moisture in the cedars, the dry cedars produce more embers, the embers start new fires. The new fires burn more cedar. Each cycle accelerates the next. Oklahoma State climatologist Gary McManus captured the relentlessness of the pattern when he said, "We get to do the same thing today and again tomorrow." 8 structures were destroyed in Texas and Woodward counties. 5 more were destroyed in Texas County. 3 structures were destroyed in Woodward, including 2 at a United States Department of Agriculture facility. Hundreds of cattle were confirmed dead across the region. A Beaver County rancher lost 51 cows. A Kansas producer lost 500. Between Ashland and Englewood, Kansas, rancher Greg Gardner tends thousands of head of cattle. He lost around 300 in the Ranger Road fire. Just last week, Gardner said he had finally been made whole from the 1,400 cattle he lost in the 2017 Starbuck fire. 8 years of rebuilding genetics, erased in an afternoon. When he talks about it, the loss is not abstract. Oklahoma State Senator Casey Murdoch, whose district covers all 3 affected counties, put it plainly. Ranchers spend a lifetime building their herds, building that genetics. It's not the monetary loss, because cattle are worth a lot of money today. It's that genetic loss. That lifetime of building those genetics is gone. And in the middle of the destruction, something almost impossible. Marcus Stevenson, fire marshal of the Woodward Fire Department, surveyed the city after the evacuation was lifted and said what no one expected to hear. "We haven't lost any structures inside city limits," which, being on it and in the middle of it, I didn't think that was a possibility. A last-second wind shift from south to north pushed the fire just below the houses. Whether it was luck or something else, Stevenson could not say. Now here is what remains unresolved. A red flag warning is in effect today across the western panhandles. Humidity is forecast to plunge as low as 9%. Wind shifts behind a Pacific cold front are expected to generate critical fire conditions through the afternoon. The Oklahoma Forestry Services warn that established wildfires will exhibit very rapid rates of spread. A brief cool down this weekend should drop temperatures below freezing overnight. The National Weather Service in Norman issued a pointed forecast. Fire weather concerns return early next week. The Ranger Road fire sits at 15% contained. Its perimeter maps have not been updated. The actual burned area may be larger than the official estimate, and the warmest February on record still has 8 days left. How do you contain a fire when the weather station built to track it has been melted? How do you rebuild a herd that took a generation to breed when the grass it grazed on will not grow back until spring? And what does it mean when a fire in the Oklahoma Panhandle coats cars in Chicago with ash, and the forecast says the conditions that caused it are coming back? Across the blackened fields of Beaver County, the ground is still warm to the touch. Somewhere between Ashland and Englewood, a rancher is counting what survived, and the wind has not stopped.